Yes. From a fig tree which stands in the yard, one may eat one by one and is exempt. But if together he is liable. Reb Shimon says, one in his right hand and one in his left hand, one in his mouth. If he climb to the top, he may fill his lap and eat. From a vine, this is Reb Tarfon, from a vine which is planted in the courtyard, one may take the whole cluster. Likewise with a pomegranate, likewise with a melon. This is Rabbi Akiva says he may pluck the grapes from the clusters and pick the seeds from the pomegranate and cut slices from the melon. First, coriander seed sown in the courtyard, one may pick leaf by leaf and eat, but together is liable. Savory hyssop in thyme in the courtyard, if guarded, is liable. If a fig tree stands in the courtyard and overhangs a garden, one may eat in his usual manner and is exempt. But if he stands in the garden and overhangs the courtyard, he may eat one by one and is exempt. But if he took it together, he is liable. If he stands in the land and overhangs outside the land and overhangs the law of the land, all follows the root. As regards houses of walled cities, all follows the root. But as regards cities of refuge, all follows the branches, and in Yerushalayim, all follows the branches. Okay.
Okay. HaKovesh, v'hasholek v'hamalech v'sadeh chayav. So even if you're in the field and you do an action that there's certain actions that already move the thing from casual eating to fixed eating, and that is pickling, cooking, and salting.
Hmm.
Okay, all of those things are sort of a taking a long-term view of the food. When you cook something, it's more formal meal. When you're salting or pickling, then you're preserving it for a long term. So this is a sign that this is no longer just a casual meal anymore. So המחמיין באדמה פטור. However, just storing it in the ground, that doesn't make it into kavua. Because that you might say, okay, so if you're pickling and it's like putting it in the ground as well is also a long-term view, but no, that's not really an action that's changing the produce. Hamitabel b'sadeh patur. Also, if you want to eat something, let's say let's say you've got some salt and you want to add it to whatever you're eating in the field, like let's say an olive, or that's something that you might want to have with salt. But if you want to just dip it in the salt, that's fine. That's just like you're salting your food right now for eating. It's not the same as taking a whole batch and putting them in salt water. Yeah. That's mitzvah b'sadeh. Potzeh zeitzim she'yetze mahem hasraf. Okay, what if he squeezes an olive so that the oil comes out onto his skin? So let's say he's got a bit of dry skin and he wants to rub some olive oil onto it. So he squeezes the olive, and a bit of oil comes out, and he rubs it into his skin. 100% fine. Oh, that's poter.
Next one, right. Yeah.
That's the next one. Beg your pardon. This one poter is that the strap is actually resin. Um, but this is but you squeeze it to get the bitterness out.
This is acrid sap.
This is an acrid sap, right? So if you squeeze it and get rid of the acrid sap, that's also okay. And if you squeeze the olives onto your flesh directly, that's also patur. However, if he is squeezing olives to get to pool the oil in the palm of his hand, now now he's chayav for Maasros, because now your hand is forming a pool, and it's like a little vat.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay. Ha-mikapelet tavshil patur. So when this is talking about grapes, about wine. We said earlier in a previous Mishnah that wine becomes liable to maasros when you skim off the surface stuff. So if you take your grapes and you squeeze them, and you've got the whole you've got your whole mix of grapes
Right,
and skins, and now you pour that into some food that you've got in front of you, just to give it a little bit of a seasoning.
right. Yeah.
And now you want to, and now he says, "Ah, but I don't want the skins here." So he takes off the skins. That's that's nothing. That's still okay. You can still call that casual eating. However, the Kadera, if you're now cooking it, if you're taking it and cooking with it, okay, straight away, this is now this is not chayav. Mipnei shehu kabor katan, which is because it's like it's like a little vat when you're putting this into the
That was your hand, right? Okay.
yeah. Base. Tinokos shetamnu te'inim l'Shabbos. Now this is children and
Right.
lav davka children, but we're saying that normally when we talk about children, we say okay, they've got maaser ve'ein lahem machshava, right? They can do things, but they can't think things. And we
Right.
said that in Kalim, that if they just considered something to be a kli that does nothing, but if they actually carved out a seat in a bench, then that would make it makabel tumah. So now, when we're talking about children who picked some figs um, and in the field, and that isn't enough to make them kavua, but they left them out over Shabbos. Okay, Vish- Vishachachu asran, and they forgot and the parents forgot to take maser from the figs before Shabbos. Lo yochlu lemotzei Shabbos ad asru. So they can't eat it not only on Shabbos but also on Motzei Shabbos, even if it's still out in the field, until you take maser. So, and this is even if the children pick them because the children have got maser, even though
Right.
and you don't need machshava over here. They picked it. It's gone over Shabbos. It needs no more. Needs no machshava in order to make it chayav in maaser. Al kalkalas Shabbos, a basket for Shabbos. So that we said before about picking and putting things into a basket, and when you finished doing the basket, that's when it's chayav in maaser. But this one wasn't yet completed. But nonetheless, it came into Shabbos. Beis Shammai putchin. Beis Shammai say this wasn't complete. Wait, the calculus Shabbos. Why would Beis Shammai say it's pater? Because dafka b'Shabbos on itself, it's also to eat from this produce even casually. Um, but on erev Shabbos, even though he's already designated it for Shabbos. It says, Beis Shammai, you're still allowed to eat it. You're still allowed to eat a casual meal from it before Shabbos.
Mhm.
Okay. But Beis Hillel say no. This is one of the chumras of Beis Hillel over Beis Shammai. Okay, where once you've completed the basket, say Beis Hillel, it's done. You have to take maaseh from it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Af han locate is a kalkala lishloch lechavero lo yachal ad sheyaser. Even if he picks a basket to send as a gift to his friend, um, he's not allowed to eat from this basket even casually until he's taken master because he has already designated it to send to send his friend from its chashivas already. Uh, it's already reached the stage of requiring maser. Um, right, and even though he hasn't yet sent it even. Okay. Mishnah Gimel, ha notel zeisim min hamatan. Um, the matan is a kli that you put your olives in so that for them to soften and for the oil to start seeping out of them. Now they're sitting in the matan and the oil is busy seeping out of them, so the malacha is obviously not yet complete.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So now, but while he's looking at that and saying, I feel like eating some olives from this. So he reaches in and takes them out, and he can take them one by one and dip them in salt, and he can eat because this is considered the malach is not finished. He's not it's not yet kavur for maser. The im malach v'nasan lefanav chayav. But if he took a bunch of olives and put them on a plate and salted them, now this is he's trying to take maser from them. This is now being separated out, and this is
separated. Right. Right.
this is now kavur for maser.
It's like making a
Eliezer,
pile.
huh?
It's like making a pile. It's making a pile. Once he
It's
does
not
that,
it's not because of the pile, it's because he's now separated them out from the matan and he's done a bulk salting on them. Okay, we said one at a time is okay.
right.
As soon as he does a batch, this is now considered salting and it's kavua. Okay, in the same way as cooking would be.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Rabbi Eliezer has a bit of a nuance to this. He says מן המתנה טהור חייב ומן הטמא פטור מפני שהוא מחזיר את המוסר. He says if the matan is tahor, all the olives in there are tahor, and the guy who's taking the olives out is tameh, then yes, I agree. You would be chayav on this immediately. Why? Because you can't put them back. But if both are tahor and sorry, I'm sorry. If the matan was tahor and the guy is tameh, he takes it out and he starts touching the things and he can't put them back because they're already tameh. However, if both of them are tameh, if he's just crushing olives that are and he's not keeping any particular tara about them, then he doesn't have to take maaser from this bowl in front of him, even though he started salting things, because if he decides he's had enough, he'll just put the remaining olives back.
Uh-huh. I just
So,
it says here, Reb Eliezer says from a clean vat he's liable, but from an unclean one. So is he
Mhm.
talking about the
So
person
in
being
other words,
tardy
if,
or
if
the
both the
vat?
person if both the person and the matan are
Uh-huh.
are tame, then he
Okay,
doesn't
okay,
have any particular distinction from them. So really, what he's done is he's just taken a handful of stuff out of there. He started to salt them because he was maybe wanting to eat some of them, but he hasn't separated them out, and it's not necessarily that he's going to eat them all. Because if he decides in the midway that he doesn't want them all, he'll take them and put them back, which shows that the malacha is not complete.
right, agree. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
go back to Aleph Gimel.
Aleph Gimel. Carobs when they form dark spots, and all that are black when they form dark spots. Pears, pimpins, peepins, no, pippins, quinces, and crab apples when they become smooth are and all white when they become smooth. Fenugreek when it is able to grow. Grain and olives when they have reached a third. And among vegetables, cucumbers, gourds, watermelons, cucumber melons, apples, and citrons are liable, whether small or large. And Reb Shimon exempts the citrons when they're small. When bitter almonds are liable, sweet ones are exempt. When sweet ones are liable, the bitter ones are exempt. Which is their first? Which is their threshing floor in regard to Maasros? Cucumbers and gourds once their fringe is taken off, and if he does not remove it when they have been stacked. Melons when they are made smooth, and if he does not make them smooth when he lays them out to dry. Vegetables when that are tied in bundles, once they have been tied in bundles, if he does not tie them in bundles, when he fills the vessel with them, and if he does not fill the vessel, one has gathered all he needs. A large basket when he covers it, and if he does not cover it, when he fills up the vessel, and if he does not fill up the vessel once he has gathered all his needs. When does this apply? When he takes it to the market. But if he takes it home, he may eat of it a chance meal and until they arrive at home.
Okay, so all of this that we learned in this Mishnah today, that's what we were learning
All right,
in the new Mishnah. Yeah, referring back to this Mishnah here.
back to this. Okay,
Yeah.
we have Chumos. Okay, we have base dollar. One might not separate truma from one kind of for another, and if he did separate, his truma is not truma. All kinds of wheat count as one, all kinds of figs and dried figs and fig cakes count as one, and one may separate truma from one for the other. When there is a priest, one may separate from the superior quality, but where there is no priest, one may separate from that which he keeps. Rabbi Yehuda says one may always separate from the superior quality. One should separate his truma a whole small onion and not a half a large onion. Rabbi Yehuda says not so, rather half of a large onion. Rabbi Yehuda also used to say one may separate his truma from town onions for the villages, but not from the villages for the towns, since the food of the other classes. One may separate truma from oil olives or for pickle olives, but not from pickle olives or for oil olives, and from unboiled wine for boiled wine, but not from boiled wine for unboiled wine. This is the general principle. If two kinds constitute kalim, one may not separate truma from one for the other, not even from the superior for the inferior. But if they do not constitute kalim, one may separate truma from the superior for the inferior, but not from the inferior for the superior. If he did not separate from the inferior for the superior, his truma is truma, except from darnel for wheat, for it is since it is not food. And cucumber melon are of one kind. Rabbi Yehuda says two kinds. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Dalid Yud. What is leket? That which falls down during the reaping. If while reaping, a person reaped a handful, plucked a fistful, and a thorn struck him, and he fell it from his hand to the ground. This is the owners. Inside the hand and inside the sickle for the poor. Behind the hand and behind the sickle for the owner. The top of the hand and the top of the sickle, Rav Ishmael says, for the poor. Rabbi Akiva says for the owner. Ant holes among the standing corn are the owners. Those after the reapers, the upper ones are for the poor, and the lower ones are for the owners. Rabbi Meir says all for the poor, but doubtful leket is leket. And we have a heap under which leket had not been gathered. Whatever touches the ground belongs to the poor. If the wind scattered the sheaves, they assessed it. How much leket would it yield? And he gives to the poor. The Rosh Shimon Gamliel says he gives it to the poor as much as usually falls.
Okay.
Olios. Okay, Yud Chet Gimel. A field in which a grave was lost can be planted with any seeds, but no trees can be planted, nor can you allow trees to remain except the barren trees that produce no fruit. The field separates Truma through touch, carrying, and Ohel. A whaling field may not be planted with either trees or grains, and its soil is tahor. Furthermore, one may make ovens for holy items from its clay. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree that we check for bone fragments for one making the basic offering, but we did not check for one who eats Truma. And as far as the Nazir is concerned, Beis Shammai says we check it, and Beis Hillel says we do not check it. How does he check? He brings earth that can be moved and places inside a sifter with very thin holes and crumbles any clods. If there was a bone the size of a barley corn was found, the person becomes tummy. How do they make a base kapras tahor? One removes 3 handbreadths from it, or one places 3 handbreadths on top of it. If you remove 3 handbreadths from one half and place 3 handbreadths on top of the other half, he is tahor. Reb Shimon says even if he removes a handbreadth and a half, or be placed on top of the handbreadth and a half, or a different place, it's tahor. If the base kapras is paved with stones that are large enough that they cannot be moved, it is tahor. Reb Shimon says even someone who hoes the base kapras makes it tahor. Okay, we're going to. Let's see, who's going to finish this? No, I'm not finished yet. Okay. We have Avos. Okay. Dalit. Yossi ben Yosea, the leader of Sereda, and Yossi ben Yochanan, the leader of Yerushalayim, received the Masorah from them. But Yossi ben Yosea, the leader of Tadai, said, "Let your house be a house for meeting, for sages, and become dusty, and the dust of their feet, and drink their words with thirst." Yochanan ben Yonakan, the leader of the Yerushalayim, says, "Let your house be open wide and partnership with members of your household, and do not converse excessively with women." They said this with regard to one's wife. How much more so does it apply with regard to the wife of another? From here, they can come and say, whenever a person converses excessively with a woman, he causes evil to himself and neglects Torah, study, and ultimately will inherit Gehenna. Yehoshua ben Barakia and Anita of Arbel received the Masorah from them. Yehoshua ben Barakia says, "Make a teacher for yourself, purchase a friend for yourself, and judge every person favorably." Yeah. Last, we have Yevamos. Vav Aleph. One who cohabitates with the Zirama, whether mistakenly or wantonly, whether coerced or willingly, even if he was mistaken and she was wanton, or if he was wanton and she was mistaken, or he coerced her that she was not, or she was coerced but he was not, whether the union was only partial or complete, he has acquired her. This is a there's no distinction between the forms of cohabitation. Similarly, if one cohabitates with any one of the arayos forbidden in the Torah, or those disqualified for marriage, for example, a widow to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee, a kaluta to an ordinary Kohen, a mamzeros, a nisanite to a Yisrael, or the daughter of a Yisrael to a mamzanite, a mamzer or nisanite, he has disqualified her. There is no distinction between the forms of cohabitation. A widow who is married to a Kohen Gadol, or a divorcee, a kaluta who is married to an ordinary Kohen, even if they were only betrothed, they may not eat truma. Reb Elazar and Reb Shimon, however, validate, and if they were widowed or divorced, if it was from marriage, they're disqualified, but if from betrothal, they are qualified. Okay.
Okay, and we done.
So leaving Sunday morning,